Hello, everyone, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Better the Pond Pondcast, the Flying V edition, where we talk to incredible people who are creating impact and ripples on the pond. My name is Warren Berry, and I'm your host and the founder of Instinctive Solutions, where we believe that everyone is not duck, but that's what makes them awesome. Today, we had a very interesting podcast where I had Julia Waller on, where she was the host and I was the guest. And she had the opportunity to talk to me about my strengths when we talked about Strengthsfinder, we talked about Kolbe, and we also talked about print. It was a very fascinating conversation where I had a few aha moments and where I learned a lot about myself. So through that conversation, I hope that you can see some of those aspects in yourself and walk away with a few aha moments yourself. It was a great time with Julia. Have a listen. Well, Julia Waller, this is a first for the Bet on the Better the Pond podcast. This is a part two, never have been done before, the inaugural part two. And this is where the opportunity arises where you get to be the host. You get to ask the questions, and I am the guest. And you get to run the show. So, and going back to a little bit of a shout out to Andre Brisson with the Impulsive Thinker podcast, is that you kind of did the same thing with him, and I thought it was quite intriguing and interesting. And when we talked a little while back, we said, "Hey, why don't we try the same thing?" So, all right, here we go. The very first part two, Better the Pond Pondcast with me being a guest.
Welcome, everybody. See, this is I have a theory that we help other people be like us. Okay, that one of the ways that we create value for other people. So you, with your 8 quick start, are helping me be a longer quick start right now and helping me improvise and jump into making things up without a plan, which of course is not my normal way of doing things, but I am fascinated by understanding people's strengths and talents. So why don't today, since you get to interview all these other people and ask them all these great questions, which was a great honor to be asked all these wonderful personal questions about my own growth and path. So let's talk a little bit about your amazing talents, because you contribute them in so many ways, and you're always getting the V flying together in formation, and you're doing all this cool, amazing coaching with people and helping people grow and helping them see the bigger picture and see where they connect in with it and all these beautiful, amazing things. So what I like to do is let's look back a little bit behind the curtain and see, well, what are the little ingredients that make up the recipe that make up Warren? So I have some of your answers from your various assessments. I don't have the deep dive that I was saying to Warren that I would prefer to have, but we've got enough information to talk about a lot of different amazing parts of you. So I've got your Kolbe results, and I've got your Clifton strengths from Gallup organization. So Kolbe to me is how you take action when you're striving and when you're doing things. And I'm sure you've talked a lot about Kolbe on your podcasts, right?
Yep.
Clifton strengths is more what you're motivated to take action on, in what domain and what area. And we're going to talk about some of your top 5 strengths. And then we've got a third assessment that we have available for our strategic coach friends and community, called the PRINT assessment, which actually articulates your top 2 deepest unconscious motivators, like that deep why, almost at a soul level, that you most care about. So we've got the how, the what, and the why. And then what I do with people is I try to integrate them all together and connect the dots so people can see how they all work together. Which, if I notice just off the top, I'm going to read your unique ability statement, okay? Because I know you did this when you were part of Strategic Coach. And this is sort of we usually go deep and then we pull it apart and then we put it back together in a sentence. So we have the bottom line, which probably Warren's like, come on, Julia, get to the bottom line, right? So Warren's unique ability is he is focusing on the big picture in a non-judgmental and compassionate way to build trust and create opportunities for people to grow. Did I get that right?
You got that right.
All right. Do you love doing that, Warren?
I love doing that. When I'm doing that, time goes away. Oh,
Oof.
1 second here. There we go. Sorry about that.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah, time, like literally time goes away.
Awesome. And do you have a certain audience that you like to match that up with that makes it even more fun? Because unique ability is one thing on its own, but you can apply it to certain audiences, and maybe they don't energize you as much, or maybe they're not working at a high enough level that they can see the bigger picture in a way that you want them to, or maybe they don't want what you have to offer. So do you have any kind of favorite audiences that you like to make that connection of your unique ability with?
Yeah, I love working with, I love what, like, just like with strategic coach, I love working with entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs, I mean, it's a very big word, and I think it's kind of really overused nowadays, to be honest. But the my client that I love working with the best is they get it. They just get it. And I don't know how else to frame it. But they're all about learning and growing and developing. They want more, and they're avid learners. So, you can go into that audience and they ask great questions, and they pull, and they're engaging, they're part of it. I kind of look at this, it's got to be a win-win-win, so that I win because I'm, doing what I love to do. They win because they're engaging with me, right? And then together we got to win because we're making things better. And that is when I'm with that audience, that's when it's a whole lot of fun. Now, I've been with other audiences where I didn't get that. And it was funny when you said that earlier today. It didn't really hit me until that moment. That's why when I'm in a certain audience where it feels, I call it pushing cooked spaghetti uphill.
I love it. See, immediately, you've got such a simple way of communicating things that we can get it instantly, which is, I would argue, also as part of your unique ability.
And so it's that, you're trying and you're trying, and you're putting in all this effort, but it's not really going where you want it to go. It's kind of going sideways, and it's clumsy and clunky, and it's to a point, it's like, I just can't wait to get out of here. Right. Yeah. Because I just can't wait for this to be over. So, those are the sort of in the comparisons, but definitely the number one I love is that the people that are the people that are open.
Yes. Well, and if you're all about growth and possibilities and opportunities, then you want people that are open. Because if people are closed to possibilities and opportunities, and they don't want to grow, or they're there because they have to be, that's like right. That's just so same with me. I want people who've chosen to be there, and they are open to learning and growing, which I think we have that in common, because we're both about growth. That's part of our why, is we're here to help people grow. If people don't want to grow, trying to help someone grow who doesn't want to grow, we've probably both tried that. Doesn't work out very well. Right? Come to me when you're ready.
Yes.
Exactly. All right. So, and I realize I didn't give you, anybody who's listening, the context of what your Kolbe is and your results of so I will share that. So Warren's Kolbe is a 2486, right? So short amount of information, a little bit of information. You're a simplifier, right? You're willing to follow a system somewhat, probably, but you're going to innovate and improvise and do things on the fly. And then I love that you're tangible. Even your metaphors and analogies are so tangible. Like I can immediately picture the spaghetti, and you use some other analogies, even your geese, right? Like it's a physical thing. And you can share more later if you want about how you use your hands and how you're pioneering new ways of doing things, using Kolbe and using your coaching. And I want to actually dig in a little bit more on your Clifton strengths. So maybe we'll start there. So Warren's top 5 Clifton strengths. He's got futuristic number 1, which is a strategic thinking strength. He's got maximizer number 2, which is an influencing strength. And we have that one in common, where we see people's strengths and like to help them get better. And you did mention in the last little conversation there about when things are getting better. If things are not getting better, are you a little bit frustrated or annoyed or not satisfied?
All three. All three.
All three, exactly, right? I can relate on that one. Connectedness, which is a relationship strength, which is all about seeing connections and making connections between things, between people, and seeing the greater connectedness in the whole, which maybe goes a little bit into your big picture. I'm not quite sure. And then you've got another relationship strength, individualization, where you see people's unique qualities and characteristics. And then I can't do this, but I try, but take more learning for me. You can naturally adapt to that certain person and sort of tailor, like you were talking about your 2 kids and how different they are. You probably are much better than most at adapting and personalizing or tailoring to that individual audience, especially with with anybody that you deal with, really. Does that make sense?
Yep, makes absolute sense.
Okay, cool. And then you've got another thinking strength, which is ideation, which is Dan Sullivan from Strategic Coach, where I'm from. That's his number one strength. So ideation are people with tons of ideas. And your ideas are probably different and alternative because of your quick start, right? Like they're different ways of doing things. They're pioneering ways that nobody came up with before. They're innovative and inspirational. Well, lots of people have inspirational ideas. But the other thing about someone with ideation is that they can connect ideas too from different places and put them together in new ways. Steve Jobs, for example, right? Like take a thing over here and over here, maybe seemingly disparate ideas, and put them together in a new, unique way to create something new. I want to go back to your futuristic because that's your number one strength. So, and we can talk about this a little bit. I want to talk about like, how does this work for you? And then I want to also talk about the kind of audience that you would like to work with from a futuristic standpoint, and maybe what they need to know about you if they're going to work with you. So the people that I work with high futuristic, which again is not one of my top strengths, but it's one of yours. And you may take it for granted that you can sort of see or are always looking ahead into the future, asking what if. Some people describe it as looking around the corner. Some people see it as a moving picture in their mind. Do you visualize? Are you dreaming? What's happening for you in terms of the future? What are you always doing in your brain around the future?
I think dreaming is probably the best way to look at it. And it's sometimes like seeing around corners, or I'm that is one thing is, and I used to beat myself up for this all the time. Like I'm always off somewhere else, right? I'm always off into the next thing. And one of the questions I ask myself, or even in context with other people, is, well, how can we do it differently? How can we do it differently? And I throw myself forward and think, okay, well, there's got to be a different way. And right, because it's all about the future. And it's very difficult for me to stay kind of grounded in the now, right? And being present, because I'm always like, just it's not the next thing. But it is very dreamy, and people will say, well, come back down out of the clouds.
Yes. Yeah. Which you probably got in trouble for this kind of thing in school as a kid or something.
The
daydreamer in the corner or whatever. These are the things that are actually clues to your unique ability later on, by the way. So, Robin Williams, I think, got in trouble for being the class clown, and our cartoonist at Strategic Coach used to doodle all the time in class, and now he does cartoons for a living. So the things that we kind of did when we were a kid are usually clues for now. So you want usually probably to work with people who want a bigger future. They want a better future. So you've also got maximizers. Maximizers like to make things better, right? They want to take something that's already working well and take it to the next level of excellence. And there's a quality standard around that too. So I would imagine from a selection factor, you want to work with quality clients who want to have a better and bigger future. Is that true?
Absolutely.
You're going to help them do that.
Right. Yeah. And be with them, be connected with them, be right with them. Yeah. So I always say I want to be, it's like I want to be part of it. And I have no real ownership in it, but I feel like I have ownership in it because I'm connected with them through that process. And then, and then help them along the way, and to make it better. So I would always want to leave it better than I found it.
Yeah, beautiful. One that fits in with your top three strengths: futuristic, maximizer, connectedness. So you use the word connector too, and connectedness, and that's a relationship strength. So you want to have a relationship with the people that you work with, right? It's not just a transaction for you. That wouldn't be satisfying to you.
Not at all.
All of your analogies and metaphors are all around teamwork and flying together, right? So you want to fly together with those people. And, maybe you want it to even last longer term, and watch the growth and development over time. Is that true for you?
Absolutely. In fact, that's something that I've been working on it, but like it's a relation. It's not a transaction, it's a relationship, but it's a long-term relationship. Yeah. That's very important to me.
Why do you like the long term? What do you get to see in the long term that you wouldn't in a short
I think it's the growth. I think that's really you see them, it's like it says there's a start and middle, but to me there is no end. So right, but it's that constant improvement and change and growth and development, and right, and again those ahas that go along the way, but everyone is winning through that. That's
win-win.
Yeah. And but it's to me, I mean, if I had it my way, it just wouldn't end. It would just keep going. It's the infinite game.
As long as they're growing too, right?
Yeah.
If they stopped growing or stopped wanting to grow, would you be out of there?
Yeah, I mean, I would try.
Yeah.
But there comes a point, it's like, okay, I gotta get out of this nest and go find another one where I can feel like I contribute more to.
Yeah. And one of the things with unique ability is learning how to maximize it. So how do we apply it to the right audiences and situations and opportunities and activities, but also how do we manage it? How do we get in trouble? You know, for me, it can be trying to help someone who doesn't want to be helped,
right.
You know, or help someone grow who doesn't want to grow. This often happens in family relationships too, by the way. Luckily, I have a growth-oriented family, but if you do try to help, you know, even your kids, they might not be open to your coaching at a certain point. And you're kind of a built coach. Even when I did my Gallup Lift and Strengths training, if you've got maximizer and individualization in your top 5, those are really big clues that you'd probably be a really amazing coach. And you got both of those. So you're built to do what you're doing, right? So let's talk about this individualization, another relationship strength, which is a beautiful strength, and the ability to see the unique qualities in different people, which is probably why you were so intrigued by Kolbe at the beginning, right? Because it helps you see how you take action uniquely. And it's a perfect result. It's not a bad result, right? It's focused on someone's strengths. And then you can personalize and customize yourself to people. Can you think of an example? I mean, you'd be the kind of person maybe who can't, it'd be hard not to personalize a conversation or an email or maybe you've learned to create sort of templates for different things, but would there be some element where you're like, I'm going to personalize, or maybe just in conversation, you're going to personalize your conversation based on what you notice about a certain person?
Yeah, it's interesting as you say that, because these things are going through my mind. And I mean, whether it be a conversation or an email, I have to know who I'm talking to. So I tend naturally to be more fun, a little more silly. Let's have fun with this. We gotta do work anyway. Let's have fun. But there's some audiences or people you can't. They're not there, and right. So you know it wouldn't come across very well. So yeah, I have to taper myself into that, either that conversation or that email, and say, okay, I'm gonna structure this in a very, you know, professional way, or a very whatever way it is that they need for me to communicate, versus just me naturally just going out and having fun with everything.
Yeah. Okay. You just led me into I'm going to talk about the fun for a second. Okay. So the assessment you just did recently through us, strategic coaches, called the PRINT assessment. It's by the Hertz company, but they really only work with, they're like a boutique firm. So we've got permission through our wonderful coach, Adrian Duffy, to use this amazing assessment with our clients and our community. So this articulates your deepest unconscious motivator. So your number one deepest unconscious motivator is to enjoy life and be happy. It's a 7 on the PRINT. So you're just describing to me how you like to have fun and you like to enjoy things, and you might as well, if you're going to work anyway, you're going to have fun, right? So like, is fun a through line? I know my brother-in-law, who's a 7 PRINT, his motto is fun first. You know, and when we go up to his cottage, it's always about fun. And if things don't get fun, things get a little tricky. But you would bring that fun. Can you tell a little story or give an example of I mean, even your names of things are fun, right? You know, so you shared some names that made me laugh out loud. So there's always this little bit of an impish, you know, humor and fun in there for you.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's funny that even just thinking about, I was speaking to a group of people in the insurance industry, did a keynote, and I sort of had it all in my head of the things that I wanted to do, and I had it kind of all structured out of kind of where I wanted to go, but within that, right, was all these little things that came out of my sometimes it's like, where did that come from? It pops out, but it's a joke, or it's a fun thing, and get everybody laughing. And you know, and you know, even at the end, and it was one of those things like, I'm not sure if I can pull this off, but I had 150 people in the room flapping their arms like geese and honking.
Only you could pull that off, Warren.
And so, as well, can I really pull it? Yeah, let's try it. Let's go see what.
Let's wing it.
Let's wing it.
Let's give it a shot. Take a chance. Take a risk. You're a quick start, right?
And wing it. No pun intended.
Yes, no pun intended. See, I didn't even mean to do that. Thank you. So what happens for you when things get not fun? Because one of the things about the print is it talks about your best self. So who you are when you're enjoying life and being happy, and you will bring that can-do energy, that attitude of possibilities. Actually, one of the superpowers of a 7 print is seeing opportunities. And look at what the end part of your unique ability statement is all about, creating opportunities to grow. So part of your superpowers is seeing those opportunities. Other people like me, I can't necessarily see them. Now, you may think, aren't they obvious, Julia? Can't everybody see these? And this is the trick with unique ability, right? Is that no, other people can't see these things, but we take it for granted because to us it's so natural, so normal. It's easy to come up, to have a new idea or to make something fun or to tell a joke that makes people laugh. You do that naturally, right?
Yeah.
So what happens when things get not so fun? So what happens sometimes if our needs are not being met at a deep level, we get kind of grumpy.
Yeah, for me, it's a very slippery slope. It really is a slippery slope, and I'm being totally honest. Is that if it's not fun, I mean, I'll want to check out, and but there's not, for me, there's not a lot of halfway. It's like it's either way up here or it's way down here. I'm not going into depression, but it's a little gloomy. It's not fun. I'm kind of miserable.
Yeah, but you'll exit then, right?
I want to exit. Yeah, that's why I want out.
So I think another thing to know about working with you is you're going to bring a lot of fun energy. So you don't want to bring people in who don't want to have fun and play, who don't think that you can still get results while you're still playing. And I know in our company, both Dan and Babs are 7 prints. And I always used to wonder, I mean, I looked at their Kolbe and I looked at their Clifton strengths, but I could never, what's this fun stuff? I mean, Babs does have positivity pretty high in her top 10 strengths too, but there's parties, there's celebrations, there's all this fun stuff, which I love. I don't necessarily bring that myself. That's not my number one thing. But I certainly, is fun to work in a culture that emphasizes teamwork and having fun and playing together, because you spend a lot of time together with each other at work, right? So anyway, that's a beautiful thing that you bring, and that positivity and that energy. It's a lovely energy to be in, and I feel like it is a lot of energy, right? So if your needs are not being met in that 7 print, then sometimes what happens is we dial things up a little. It's like a dial, so you turn it up a little bit more to try to get it going a little bit more. And or you just leave, right? Or you get triggered or you get grumpy because it's not fun anymore, so you just want to bail. But so once you know what those dials are, you can have more awareness around them, and then you can start to either transform the situation. You can recognize what it is that's making you want to bail or leave, and then sometimes you can do something about it. Or you realize this audience is not a good fit for me, and then you go find a better audience who actually wants to have fun with you. And I imagine you kind of surrounded yourself with people who like to have fun. Yeah,
there's 2 things. You just gave me an aha, actually. You did. Well, that was the dial, and I this is so fascinating, because I know if it's not as much fun, or it starts to go down that little slippery slope, I've said to myself in my own mind, saying, well, you're kind of over the top. And I think I've tried to take it over the top, trying to get it back, and the audience might, or whoever it is around me, is like, okay, you're a bit much. That's a perfect
example of dialing up the dial too much, and we all do it, because our needs are not met though. And so once we realize why we're doing it, we're like, oh, that's why I did that. Yeah. Okay, and then we can dissect and work backwards. Yeah.
And I have another, as a Tech Canada chair that I work with here at home in Regina. And I tell you, I don't know his print, I know his Kolbe, but when we work together, I mean, it literally is, I'm surprised we get anything done, but we do get a lot of work done, but it is a blast. Like, it is so much fun, and we laugh and we giggle and we tell jokes, and right. But the work that we get done is like, it's amazing. And like, literally, and again, that's one of those times when time just literally goes away. Like, we'll have breakfast and we'll talk about things, and it's like you look at your watch, it's like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, how did it get so?
How did that? I just started my eggs.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that is actually it is very important to me.
Yeah. I think all of these things become really a selection. We have a concept at Strategic Coach about always being the buyer. So if we're the buyer for who the people are that actually use our services and our products and our transformational coaching or whatever we do, then we get to pick and choose actually who it is that fits for us, right? Because they're the people who are actually going to benefit the most from what we have to offer. So someone who wants a bigger future, loves people who dream up new ways of doing things and new ideas, right? Who wants to go to the next level. So they want to grow to the next level. So your maximizer is going to, want to get the most out of them and help them make constant improvements. And that's why you said it's never ending you could be potentially never ending in your relationships with coaching people, because there's always more improvement to make, right? It doesn't end, right? And then you're going to have people who, want to be connected and work in teamwork and collaboration with people. So, if they don't want that, some people don't want that, they just want to do their thing and leave, and they don't want anyone to know them or get to know them at a personal level at all. Right. Well, that wouldn't be good for you or for me. Let's talk about your ideation for a minute. So this may overlap with the whole dreaming idea about dreaming about the future, but are you someone how do you feel about ideas? Do you like ideas?
It's a fountain that never turns off.
Fountain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of ideas. Do you sometimes have too many ideas?
I think I won't say there's too many. What I fail to do sometimes is capture them.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And so like I'll have this idea, then I'll go off to something else, and then and it's, of course it's a squirrel moment, but it's squirrel, and then I'm off and I forget about it, or it's like, oh, I had this idea, but I failed to capture it. And so then, but I will get off to the next one. So I don't see it as ever too many.
Okay.
I say it's a lack of trying to capture them all.
And do you have a sense that the right ideas come at the right time, and do you have any of that kind of philosophy around that things happen at the right time, or if that idea popped, or if that idea went away, then maybe it wasn't meant to happen right now, maybe it'll come back later?
Yeah, I believe that everything happens for a reason, so that there's ideas that come at the right time. And I'll just tell you a really quick story, because it just happened, and it was really such an aha for me. Is that I'm expanding on my speaking, and I had all these ideas of all these things I could do, right? And so I sat down with another tech chair in Toronto, and I spewed it all out. And and then what she does, she says, well, have you thought about this? Did you think about that? Well, that's not going to work. Well, that's not good. And I left, and I'm like, I felt like this balloon that just got completely deflated. All right. It's like, oh, right. Yeah. And that's what I felt. And then, but what happened was, so I left there feeling that way. And it's about sort of 2 days later, 3 days later, all of a sudden, it totally shifted my thinking, where I got reignited again, and then came up with a whole bunch of new ideas that actually took it to that next level. So having that meeting with her was, even though I felt really deflated, was the best thing that ever happened, because she kind of saved me from myself, shall we say.
Very good. Well, good for you for being open to that too, because that can be very, and de-energizing for someone who's got all these great ideas, right?
And I did feel it at first, but then I opened back up, and then I was like, oh yeah, she's right. And then it threw me into a different direction. I'm like, oh, here we go again. And off I went. And but the time that she saved me was fantastic. So I did write her a thank you card.
Good for you. Because sometimes people will avoid those conversations because they don't want someone to trample down on their ideas, or they'll have the conversation and then they'll let the person go away and think about their ideas and then come back, because it is sometimes hard to hear I think the way it's communicated, and if it's communicated with love and to help you be better, and you always want to be better, then you're going to be open to that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. There are ways to do it in better ways than others, right? So that you're more open to hearing it. But good for you. And then I think I know you probably realize that you can trust that there's always going to be more ideas for you, right? And do you connect different ideas from different places in ways that nobody else has connected them before? Do you have any examples of that?
Oh, so my whole research on cognitive stress and chronic pain, and my whole back big on health, right? So I looked at the fascial system of the human body, and looking at things like fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome and irritable bowel syndrome and those kind of pieces. And then when I saw what was happening cognitively with people in cognitive stress, immediately it was like, well, there's the connection. Like those,
You saw the connection.
it does immediately. It was like, well, how did I not see this before? It was just like there it was. And I was talking to we'll be working with a physician out in Halifax, hopefully this summer, fall. But anyway, so as he was doing research on my ideas, he says, well, there's nothing else out there. I said, well, I know there's nothing else out there. No one's done it.
Yeah.
So we got nothing really basic. But
But
yeah, so then it's like, well, let's pioneer something. We're going to pioneer something new. But to me, it was as clear as day. Right. And whenever I talk to any whether it was other doctors or professors or people that were in pain, like they would look at me like I had three heads, like they have no idea what you're talking about, and then they would just kind of just disappear. And but there's something here, like
you can see it.
I can see it.
Well, and you have between your connectedness strength and your ideation strength, both of those are around connections. So seeing the connection between the fabric of humanity kind of connectedness, and then ideation is seeing connection between ideas. So you have what I call, so in my sophisticated way, the double whammy in connection, in making connections and seeing connections. So you will definitely see connections that other people have no clue. And then we look at your Pioneer Kolbe too, with your 8 quick start and your 6 implementer and your tangible ability too, and the fascia, and you're gonna see connections in the human body, and then again with Kolbe and the cognitive stuff. So you're gonna see a connection between, again, 2 kind of very different areas, and you're gonna see them together, and then come up with some whole new theory or way of looking at things.
Yeah.
And then helping people get better, right? Because you want to maximize people. You want to bring people up to a higher level, and you don't want them suffering. Because connectedness strength also comes with a lot of compassion. And those are some of the, you talked about non-judgmental and compassionate way of being with people. Like people who have high connectedness are usually quite compassionate, because if we are all connected as one, and how I treat you is kind of then, it's a reflection on me as well. So I treating people the way, well, ideally the way they want to be treated, but at least the way you want to be treated to start with, right? So there is a compassion and a care and a feeling of connection with people around that too. So that's also in your unique ability statement. Pretty powerful combination. Let me mention one other thing about your print. So there's 2 numbers on the print. There's your major, which is your 7, to enjoy life and be happy. And your minor is the 8 print, which is to be strong and self-reliant. This is very much a take charge kind of person, a leadership. Yeah. Who likes both 7s and 8s like their independence too. They don't want to be told what to do. And you're an entrepreneur, are you, Warren?
Yeah.
Yeah. Shock and surprise, right? So you're one of those people. I always say 8 prints are when in the zombie apocalypse, I want an 8 print in the room taking charge. And probably also someone with your Kolbe too, with your quick start implementer, who can jump in and actually there's a protection to an 8 print too, where you've got enough strength and leadership ability that you actually hold people under your wings almost. So there's a protectiveness of your team and of other people even. So there's probably even like helping people feel safe in some way. Now 8s can also be quite assertive. And if they feel boxed in, this is where we go into our shadow, where's our best self and our shadow self if our needs are not met. If somebody's telling you what to do, or telling you can't do something, or you may dial that 8 up a little bit and sort of, run people over. Or the assertiveness can turn into aggressiveness. But I think you have, like, even your connectedness is going to dampen that down a little bit, right? And bring some of that softness, and your individualization is going to, that you've got relationship strengths, they're going to dampen down that 8. Whereas other people might have things that kind of amplify the 8. So yours kind of balances out. But do you like to be in charge?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You don't want someone telling you what to do.
No.
You don't want someone telling you what you should do in your calendar or anything like that. If you start to feel confined in your calendar, do you go a little bit crazy from a Kolbe perspective, probably, and from a print perspective?
For sure. I usually come out guns a-blazing. I'll never do it. I won't do it in a rude way, but I'll definitely push back.
Yeah. And there's a real strength there to push back.
Yeah.
So, wow. So I feel like we hadn't talked that much about your Kolbe, and I feel like you probably talked more about your Kolbe in your podcast over the times. But what an amazing, brilliant, beautiful set of talents you have, and then you help people have these amazingly better futures by connecting in with their own individual unique strengths and talents, and then you go along, fly along with them, as long as they'll have you on the journey with them, and help them have better lives, better futures, with more possibilities to grow and evolve as human beings. And that's such a huge gift.
Why, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for what you do. And I'm sure every one of your podcasts, these things will come out in every one of your episodes. And even just you listening to my story with such care and compassion. And I could feel there wasn't judgment around it either, which is, another part of, I think, that connectedness strength. Because that's what I do with my clients too. We show connectedness in our top 5 as well. So maximize our connectedness. Those are my 1 and 2.
Well, and that's something I said earlier about, one of the things I've discovered was listening to somebody's story and really, I authentically, it matters to me. It's important to me. And so going back to when, just like you said, when you did your podcast, was that your listening talent as a kid was still playing itself out. And for some reason, when I originally started my podcast, I could see those connections from the story. I'm like, oh, you're still doing the same thing, right? You're doing it maybe differently, maybe with you with more confidence, but some people more skill, some people, but you're still, right? You're still being yourself, through the time. And I didn't set out to do that. It was something that I just all of a sudden went, hey, wait a second, they connect.
You're going to see all those connections, Warren. So trust, when you see a connection, trust that it's there, because you've got the eyes to see those connections. You're going to see them way more than other people. And they may not get it. So then you'll learn how to explain it to them and how to get them to see it. But you use your beautiful analogies and your simple way of communicating things to people so they get it, then they're going to get it. But it's a brilliant ability to be able to see those connections and help people make them. That's so much of, I think, what we both get to do in our coaching. And then it's so fun, right? It's so fun when someone sees a connection that you could see. You're like, well, geez, kind of obvious to me, but you didn't see it. So awesome. Well, thank you for letting us talk about you today on your podcast and letting me jump into the reins for a second so we could talk about how amazing you are. And I get to have fun doing that.
Why, thank you, Julie. You are a great host. And I sincerely thank you for this. This is amazing. You're amazing.
Thanks, Warren.
I guess we get to better the pond.
We both get to better the pond. We're bettering the pond together.
There we go. Perfect. Thank you, Julia.
Thanks, Warren.